Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Hey, welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for choosing this show, because I realize there are a gazillion of them you could be listening to instead. So the fact that you subscribe to this one and you don't miss it, it means a ton to us. Thank you. There are a lot of people that work very hard to make it happen. And there are a lot of great people who sponsor our show, too, and make it complimentary to you, like usmedicalplan.com. My friend John Ruhlman at usmedicalplan.com is doing something with health insurance that there aren't many people in the country doing, and that is plugging you into about 100 or so different private health insurance companies across the country to give you the very, very best rates. Now, listen, I understand that right now, particularly this time of year, is when people are doing the open enrollment thing, and they are very, very confused. If you are a supplemental health insurance buyer with Medicare, there are a lot of choices out there. Are you getting the best rates? Hard to know. John knows, though. You've just got to give him a couple of minutes on the phone. It will take a couple of minutes, but you will save money. And you know how I know? Because my own parents have saved hundreds of dollars a month with John Ruhlman at usmedicalplan.com. Now, if you are a small business owner and you'd like to buy insurance for your employees, but you want to save a buck or two, John knows exactly the best rates on group insurance. You buy your own insurance for your family in addition to employees. Same deal. John's got the best rates. Do you know I have a friend who just got Cobra through John and saved about $600 a month versus what she was being offered through her former employer. John knows how to save you money and keep you covered in health insurance, but you've got to make the call. 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Yeah, Paul, tee up number 30. Hey, good morning, folks. Welcome in. Live shot at Wilmington, Delaware this morning. How are you doing? The first state, our telephone number, 855-STIGAL, is how you reach us. Glad to have you, and Merry Christmas. Beautiful scenes all over the country. We have our cameras stationed everywhere on the Salem News Channel. If you don't watch, I hope that you'll get the app and download it so you can watch and listen right along with us. And if you're listening on great radio stations like they are in Wilmington, out of the pulsing wattage of Philadelphia's AM 990 The Answer, thank you for being here, one of our hundreds of brand new affiliates, and growing each and every day. Let's start with some good news. You want to smile? You want to laugh a little bit? This made me smile and laugh a little bit. Paul, if you would, please, number 30.
When people come together, so I'm asking you to tune out those intrusive voices that say she can't win because she's black, because she's a woman, or because she's a Democrat. If you believe women should be in all spaces, then I ask you to stand with me.
No, I don't think you can win because you're dumb. But that's beside the point. That's Jasmine Crockett, ladies and gentlemen. The gift that keeps on giving. What a Christmas. Merry Christmas, one and all. This made me so happy yesterday. I shared it on X. Jasmine Crockett has decided, because she's been drawn out of her job in the House of Representatives down there in Texas, she's decided she's going to go the route of Beto O'Rourke. Now, do you think she's going to do better than Beto? Or worse than Beto in a Senate run down there, Fast Eddie?
Say better. She's going to do better than Beto.
Because she's not a beta white male. She's got that sassy, street tough, I'm a badass black lady thing.
Absolutely.
You think that works?
Yeah, they'll bring in Cardi B. They'll bring in Megan Thee Stallion. They'll have a good party down there. I mean, it's
you think Queen Bey will come down and do a concert like she did for Kamala?
She might.
Tackle Britches?
She might. I think Crockett's going to do better than Beto. Yeah, for sure.
Give me number 31, please, Paul.
When Texas turns blue, it won't be because of any one candidate, but because of each and every one of you doing your part. Turning Texas blue is what I want to talk to y'all about today. Now, there are those that say, ain't no way, we done tried it 50 kinds of ways. Let me be clear. Y'all ain't never tried it the JC way. We used to telling us what I can't do, but they have no idea what Crockett's crew will do. And so I just want to be clear for all the haters in the back. Listen up real loud. We gonna get this thing done.
Right. Isn't she some kind of boarding school kid from St. Louis? If memory serves, when did she become the street tough chick from Texas, Ed? She's an interloper. She's not even from Texas, is she?
Actually, I don't believe so. I have to check that. But no, you're right. She's very much a rich kid. She almost, like the upbringing wise, I think like she went to all the best schools and everything. Like that's proven. That's
there was some big expose, and I forget who did it. Somebody did the background dig on Jasmine Crockett a while back and found out she went to some really snobby, upper crust defeat, nose in the air, rich suburban St. Louis school. Probably Lily White to boot. I'm always fascinated. Look, if I ever ran for Senate, let's just say I decided to run for a Senate seat. I've always been fascinated at the idea that I would just go to any state of the union and run. Like I would just show, we just showed you a picture of Wilmington, Delaware, that I'd just go to Delaware and run for Senate. There's a presumptuousness to that. I mean, Mrs. Clinton did it in New York, I guess, and I know Mitt did it in Massachusetts, and now he lives in Utah. There are countless other examples of it. Don't you feel like there should be, I'm not prepared to say a constitutional requirement, but don't you feel like if you're going to represent a state in the United States Senate, there should be a requirement for number of years lived in a state to do so, Ed?
Yes.
Do you think that's unreasonable?
No, to be perfectly honest, that's one of the reasons Fetterman was so effective, was he played the Homer thing over and over and over again.
That's right. You can criticize him for all you'd like, and that's probably why Dr. Oz had such trouble, too, because Dr. Oz, even though, yes, he had ties to Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, everybody knew he was a showbiz TV guy who hadn't been in Pennsylvania for a very long time, but he could claim roots. I don't know. I mean, spending a dozen years in Pennsylvania, I suppose I've seen enough in Pennsylvania where I could maybe credibly run there as sort of my second home. But this would be like me moving to New Mexico and running. Can you do that? I mean, I would return to my birth state of Missouri if I were living in New Mexico and run for Senate in Missouri if I thought I had the best shot. Why? In fact, I would say Jasmine Crockett has a better shot at going back home to Missouri, where she comes from, and running against a guy like Josh Hawley or Eric Schmidt versus running against those guys down in Texas. I was also trying to remember what was the sorry, Ed, I'm doing Google on you. I should have looked this up before the show started. Could you give me Beto O'Rourke's final state count versus in his Senate runs? I think he took on Ted Cruz 2 different times, if memory serves, maybe more than 2. I'm just curious how he ended up finishing. Because you think she'll do better than Beto did. So, look, there's a reason she's running. I will watch her with interest only because these people, ultimately, the Democrat machine needs turnout, they need excitement, they need enthusiasm. AOC, Zoran Mamdani, they calculate that she is one of those that interjects energy and excitement into the base. She's probably going to raise a ton of money. I have every reason to believe she does not expect to win, but watch her being a big money raiser for Democrats. And remember, that's where the power seat is. It has nothing to do with winning elections many times for Democrats. It's about who controls the money flow. I've written about this at the Harump Society before. Jasmine Crockett is probably less interested in going to the United States Senate. In fact, I think she knows she's not going to go to the United States Senate. That's not why she's doing this. She wants to be a media figure, and she wants to raise tons of money. She wants to be a kingmaker. She's challenging AOC to be the new star of the party. She likes doing the cable news circuit. She likes being invited on the talk shows. This keeps her a celebrity in perpetuity, don't you see, who also raises a bunch of money, makes herself a star. She's going to try to go the Stacey Abrams route, and she's going to try to ride that gravy train until it peters out, and it will peter out. You find any data on Beto's runs?
I did. I hope she does worse than Beto. Ted Cruz only won by 50.9%, so 4.2 million votes to 4.0 million votes. Ted Cruz over Beto.
That was the most recent one Beto put up?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, it was a close one. So you think she'll do better than that? You think she could mount an insurrection stronger than Beto?
I do, because she's got that whole star power contingent. Like, she'll bring out the Cardi B's, the Megan Thee Stallion. Like, she's got the entire apparatus in place to support her. Yeah.
And of course, don't forget, there's also something very interesting going on down there with Cornyn. Remember, there is a challenger to Cornyn right now. We've interviewed at least one of them. I don't know if there's more than one. I haven't been following it closely, but there's going to be a primary fight to get that Republican nomination. Cornyn, obviously has the money advantage, but this is going to be a really interesting one. So I could be wrong. Maybe they look at Beto, as you maybe correctly calculated, Ed, and she has more firepower and she certainly has more testosterone than Beto.
Absolutely.
So maybe they calculate she could legitimately win against a wounded Cornyn who doesn't exactly excite the base down there. I guess I could hear the case made.
That would be a big story. Oh, my. Horrible story, but big one.
Senator Crockett from Texas.
This would be the year, sadly. Oh, no, I don't
Speaking
feel good.
of... Yeah, I know, and that's why I think President Trump is hitting the campaign trail. Susie Wiles was a guest on a program called The Mom View. The Moms for Liberty ladies hosted Susie Wiles, the chief of staff to President Trump. She made some news yesterday when she announced that President Trump was, in fact, going to be going out and stumping for candidates this coming year, number 35.
We're going to put him on the campaign trail, too. Typically, just a little bit of campaign speak, if I may.
Yeah.
Typically, in the midterms, it's not about who's sitting at the White House. It's you localize the election,
right,
and you keep the federal officials out of it. We're actually going to turn that on its head.
Good.
And put him on the ballot, because so many of those low propensity voters are Trump voters.
Yes, they are.
And we saw a week ago Tuesday what happens when he's not on the ballot and not active. So I haven't quite broken it to him yet, but he's going to campaign like it's 2024 again.
Oh.
For all these people that he helps. He doesn't help everybody, but for those he does, he's a difference maker, and he's certainly a turnout machine. So the midterms will be very important to us. He'll work very hard to keep the majority.
Yeah, we can't afford to have this stalled.
No.
And one of the things I keep telling people, I'm sure we're going to talk politics. I got to talk this.
All right.
I am.
That's good enough, but not to cut the ladies off there at the Mom View. That's Moms for America, by the way. My apologies. Moms for America had Susie Wiles there. He's going to hit the trail. In fact, the Washington Times confirms this also. Trump hitting the road to gain upper hand on the affordability debate. So let's take somebody like Jasmine Crockett versus Donald Trump on the campaign trail next year. Who you got, Ed? You still like Trump's star power or Jasmine coming on?
I do, but Cornyn. It's Cornyn, man. It's a tough one.
Yeah. More in a moment. Merry Christmas. So Trump is going to hit the road here to gain the upper hand on affordability, says the Washington Times. Mr. Trump says Democrats are using the affordability mantra to play down his progress in bringing down prices that soared under the Biden administration. Yet, economic worries are unmistakable and unshakable as Mr. Trump tries to upend trade and reshape the economy. There was big news yesterday on gasoline, specifically. Did you see it? Energy prices are going to be Aaron McGuire told us this yesterday in Mondays with McGuire. Energy prices are going to be politically one of the things people notice first. It's also going to be the thing that impacts much of what you see at the store. What we know is when fuel prices are high, people that deliver goods to market, physical goods to market, built in those prices often are fuel costs. If transportation folks know that their fuel costs are coming down and they can count on that for a while, odds are what you could start to see, money coming down and off the prices of things that are built in to transport. And that could be a very, very good thing. The nation's average gas price now has fallen 5 cents over the last week and stands at $2.90 per gallon. That's a national average, and that figures in with you poor people that live under the Newsom regime and the gas taxes of California that still are over $5. Every time I say gas prices have come down, people in California go, ours is still $5.60 something out here. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm talking about national average. You live in a hellscape under Democrat rule and Gavin Newsom. So your gas taxes in states like California. That's not true in places like many places in the Midwest. You know, in Texas, I just saw it dip below $2 this weekend. I can't remember where I saw that, but somebody, in fact, I think, am I making this up? I don't want to overly exaggerate, but I feel like I saw somebody dip down to like $1.80 something down in Texas over the weekend. I might be misremembering that, but I know it dropped below $2 in some parts of Texas. The national average is down 17 cents from just a month ago and is 7 cents per gallon lower than a year ago. The national average price of diesel, and this is the biggie, this is the one, diesel, has fallen 5 cents in the last week and stands at $3.67 per gallon. That's, again, national average. Gas prices continuing to decline in most states in the last week. So President Trump is going to go out there and become the explainer on affordability. He's got to be careful, though, and this is one of those things that President Trump does very, very well, as long as he leans into understanding where people are and what people's perceptions are. He can't get prickly. And in fact, in just a minute, I'm going to play for you a farmer who came and visited him and told a great personal story. Trump needs to surround himself with real people and real stories. I know he will. I know his messaging team will. More in a minute. Okay, President Trump is on the campaign trail, I guess effectively, if you want to look at it that way. I guess we're kind of unofficially kicking off midterm campaign season. This is, I can't remember the last time he went out and made a campaign stump stop like he's about to make in Pennsylvania, which interestingly, he chose Pennsylvania to make this kind of first stop where he's going to talk affordability. So what does this tell you? Is this the White House taking a bit of a heel turn here? President Trump going to ditch the talk of the affordability thing being a hoax and try something different now? This seems to be a more nimble White House in every way. I think they've always messaged well. I think Bessent was out there over the weekend. We talked about this yesterday. Pretty frustrated. He said, we're not going to say that Americans don't know what they're feeling. We've been making a lot of gains, but we understand people don't feel great. So this has gotten through to Donald Trump. Do you expect in Pennsylvania, Ed, he's going to come out there and call affordability a hoax, or do you think they've encouraged him to soften that and change his tune a little bit?
I hope they've encouraged him to soften that and change his tune, but if he's on the stump and he's rolling, I think as quick yesterday, I think even as recent as is when he said affordability not was a hoax, but that the Democrats just made it up. So I don't know. It's a tough one.
And remember, Scott Adams, he's a guy that likes to study the use of words. Scott Adams' theory is Donald Trump isolating this word affordability and kind of volleying it right back at them is kind of taking the power out of it, forcing the discussion. I actually maintain it's very similar to this. Now, if Scott Adams is right about that, and I don't know. I'll defer to Mr. Adams on that, and I guess time will tell whether President Trump is taking the power and the sting out of that affordability word by calling it a hoax and volleying it back in the Democrats' faces. But one way I think that he is to great effect, I just heard this morning, I won't forget my place, but it just occurred to me, I heard a report this morning that President Trump said that the double taps, they're calling it, the second strikes on drug boats that the press is requesting video to see. President Trump initially said, whatever. If you want to see it, I don't care. I have nothing to hide, whatever you want. Now he's saying, you know what? Never mind. I don't think I'm going to release that. Now, immediately what I thought when I heard that. Now, of course, the news anchor said, what are they hiding? What is President Trump backtracking now? He said we were going to be able to see any video we wanted, and now he's backtracking. I thought, you idiots. Do you not understand this game by now? Have you seen the polling on this? I won't forget my place on affordability, I promise. The Harvard-Harris poll that just came out in the last couple of days on American support or opposition of targeting drug smugglers in open waters to our south. It's a 60-40 issue. 58-42. So call it a 60-40 issue. Much like taking young children and trying to transition their gender. That's an 80-20 issue. There are or getting rid of illegals breaking into the country who also traffic in children, drugs, or beat their wives. most Americans don't have a lot of sympathy for characters like these. Democrats like to take them out for cocktails. So the Abrego Garcia thing blew up in their face, and now they're dying on the hill of standing with drug smugglers. And they keep having these hearings, and they think they're scoring big points with these hearings. And now there's more tape out there, and we want to see it. And Trump says, yeah, I don't think I'm going to let you see it now. What are you hiding? He is truly Roadrunner to the Coyote. These morons keep thinking they're setting a trap, and then he beep, and takes off, and the boulder comes or the Acme thing, kaboom, in the Democrats' faces. So they're going to scream and yell for another week heading into the holidays about the drug boat fast, Eddie. Now, I just told you it's a 60-40 issue, and Trump has masterfully got them screaming about the drug boat for another day, maybe another 2 or 3 or 4 days.
I love this. I love everything about it.
What they're not talking about is affordability all of a sudden. Now they're talking about drug boats. And again, if that's what they want to do, this is where Trump is quite smart. And I maintain he's saying, I'm not going to let you see the video. He wants people to start fighting about release of a video of him blowing up drug smugglers. Do you understand how stupid that is? And Democrats are going to go for it. They think they've got a thing here. And it's a 60-40 issue. So anyway, I'm sorry. I don't mean to go off on that other than to make the point Democrats are going to try to die on this hill. They can't stay focused. If I were Democrats, not that I'm counseling them or are they listening to me, I'd stay with the affordability thing. It clearly irks Trump. He doesn't like it, which is why he's loading up the Air Force One and he's headed to Pennsylvania to start addressing this. And I say, great, he's going to do great with this too. He's got them chasing their tails over there on the drug boat thing, and he's going to hit the trail. He invited a farmer to the White House yesterday to discuss affordability and some ways in which he's trying to help the farming community. Let's start with number 25 and the Democrats' affordability mess he says they inherited to begin with.
When gasoline comes down, everything, it's such a big category that when gasoline comes down, sort of everything sort of follows. But we inherited a mess. Affordability, but you can call it affordability or anything you want, but the Democrats caused the affordability problem, and we're the ones that are fixing it. So it's a very simple statement. They caused it, we're fixing it, and they have a tendency to just say this election's based on affordability, and nobody questions them, John. Nobody says, oh, well, what do you mean by that? But they just say the word. They never say anything else because they caused the problem, but we're fixing the problem.
Okay, so this lends credibility to the Scott Adams point that they're trying to take this word back, and they're going to keep forcing the issue. Note that he referenced the election, so it's interesting. His mind is already in election mode. They are clearly already thinking about midterms. We played for you Susie Wiles, who said he's going to hit the stump. So he's engaged, and I think Adams is probably right here. They think that they can take this word back, and they can force the discussion of affordability, and when that discussion happens, it's going to force a discussion on why are things such a mess? Is it Trump? What caused us to get here? Now, I don't know. People will often just blame whoever's in charge for their financial troubles if, in fact, they're having them. But President Trump invited a farmer to the White House to explain, yeah, it's tough, but I actually have faith the guy is fixing it. This was an interesting moment yesterday. Listen to number 26.
I lost my grandfather in a hard hand in 2002 in a farming accident. And he instilled in me at an early age to love the land, to take pride in what we do.
Was that a machine accident?
It was a machine accident. And it gets in your blood to farm. It's in our blood. Despite what happened, I want my 2-year-old to farm. I want my 4-month-old daughter to have an opportunity. And what you're doing here in D.C. is working. You have a backbone to stand up to other countries for trade. You're getting things done. Tax provisions. I'll be able to potentially pass on a farm to my children because of you. Ethanol. You're working for ethanol. trying to get E15 year-round. We're dealing with California, Prop 12. Let's continue to work on that. I think we can have a lot of domestic product used here in the country, and we can keep America first. And you're good at that. That is who you are. And if we keep that E15, you could have the biggest.
E15 is a big deal.
E15 is a great deal, year-round.
Okay.
You could have the biggest.
All right. So, and this went on for a bit, but here's the brilliance in this. This is where President Trump's instincts are so good, and this is what got him to the White House the first time and now a second time. He brings up real people leading real lives, living the real economy, living the real business decisions that he is making at the executive level right now, particularly on items like trade. Trump to send $12 billion tariff revenue to farmers. So President Trump is sending a bit of a bandage here, using tariff money to do it for farmers, while he turns the screws to other countries to force their hand to take more of our agricultural products. And what does he do? He brings in a real-life farmer to explain why, I get it, we get what you're doing, it is working, we have faith in you, we're with you. Farming's in our veins. I want to pass it on to my kid, and I'm here and I'm with you. That is a real guy from the real agricultural sector sitting next to Trump, telling the country in front of the press and everybody, we're with you. This is what Trump does better than anybody, and I will almost bet you his stop in Pennsylvania is going to feature Pennsylvanians standing alongside of him, telling him, I know you're fighting. I know right now things look a little tough, but we're with you. We know what you're doing is working. It's working well. Dave Ramsey, our buddy who hosts, everybody knows Dave Ramsey, the Bunny Man. Dave said yesterday on his show, I'll have this for you in a minute, and if ever there was somebody who's paying attention to people and affordability, it's Dave Ramsey. He says that it's largely a media fiction to begin with. Here's that clip of Dave Ramsey I was mentioning. Give me number 28 here, Paul, saying that he, on this affordability issue, he doesn't hear it from his own callers, and these are people who are usually up to their eyeballs in debt. Listen.
Interest rates are down, and gas prices are down below $3 in most places. The economy seems to be, the people we're talking to are really not having huge, serious affordability problems. There's a lot of talking heads, a lot of squawking about that, but most of that's political.
Now, Ramsey's not a guy who fibs about this stuff. He's usually a straight shooter, so I have no reason to doubt Dave if that's his assessment. Like I said, all he does is talk to, these are his words, broke people. So he says that it's largely exaggerated. Let me go out to Colorado, talk to Steve, who's been waiting patiently. Hey, Steve, Merry Christmas. Thanks for calling. Hi.
Hey, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, I was telling your producer, and I've been driving over a decade now, commercial, and I don't think I've ever seen, honestly, even in this first term, I don't even know if diesel hit. I just paid $2.99 a gallon for diesel.
Is that good?
In Colorado. That's insane. It was so bad during the Biden years that our company limited us to only 2 different gas companies in the entire state in order to try and control prices.
Wow.
Yeah,
they had a contract with a certain provider for fuel.
Exactly. And it really affected it drove us all crazy because we could no longer just go to where it was convenient. We'd have to go to where a lot of the cross-country 53-foot trailers are going in, where we'd sit and wait, 30 minutes, 35 minutes before we'd even get to a fuel tank. So, wow. Yeah, it's amazing what President Trump is doing. I've been backing him ever since he came down the golden escalator.
So you guys in trucking, by and large, is that your sense of it with others that haul, that they're feeling that same result?
I think they definitely will. Because I would see a lot of the guys in the big 53s. I mean, you could just see it in their face back in the day, how much, dumping over $1,000 to fill their tank.
And make no mistake, Scott, that does, I mean, and I'm not making you out to be a villain, it's just math, it's business. That does add to costs of the things that you're hauling. I mean, that gets passed on to your customer because it has to. You can't just absorb that, right?
Absolutely. And that's where I'm wondering, I don't know if you've heard anything. I'm hoping that the Trump administration is going to start getting on top of the big grocery chains and putting some pressure on them.
Very interesting.
Like you covered it the other day, you don't necessarily ever see prices go down.
Yep.
But
yeah, well, listen, Steve, I'll tell you one thing. We are, we're going to talk with the EPA Administrator today about energy and what you just brought up, and thank you for the perspective. As far as agriculture goes, President Trump taking some of this tariff money, trying to at least help the farmers. Grocery stores and producers of meat, we know that he is actually he's got DOJ looking into the big four meat packing companies who also pack chicken and pork. He's investigating them right now for monopolistic practices. So we'll see. I do think there's some movement there. I can't confirm exactly what, but yeah, we'll continue to watch it. And I appreciate the perspective. That's really good news. I love to hear that. Can you imagine $1,000 to fill a tank for a truck? Steve, thank you. Listen, despite whatever your circumstances may be, here's one thing we know come Christmas time. The Angel Tree campaign underway, and Prison Fellowship is doing remarkable stuff. You guys are stepping up as I knew you would, and I'm so grateful to you. This time of year, there are kids through no fault of their own, and this is what this ministry is about, ladies and gentlemen. This is about the kids who, through no fault of their own, have a parent who screwed up. And this is not about making apology or excuses for the parent who screwed up. But you and I know, particularly if you're a Christian, grace is needed when someone screws up. And they still have children they love at home. And they deserve a present for Christmas. And they deserve to know their parent loves them at Christmas. And that's what your $30 gift can do today. Can you help me get to this goal next week of 2,600 kids with a gift and a note and a Bible? 888-206-2794 or chrisstigall.com. Hey, good to be with you, folks. Merry Christmas and welcome into Hour 2 of the Stigall Show. Glad to have you here on the Salem News Channel. Do you have the app so you can take it along with you wherever you go? I hope so. If not, grab it because it's free. Coming up this hour, we're going to talk with Kurt Schlicter, the Colonel, my colleague at townhall.com. He's got a brand new book, and can't wait to ask his thoughts on they're trying to make hay, the Democrats are, on what they call the double tap. This is striking the drug smugglers in the high seas, and then you got a couple of them floating around out there trying to get back on the boat, trying to scoop up the drugs floating around out there, and wow, hit them again. They've already said that Hegseth had nothing to do with those orders. Democrats continue to insist they want to talk about this, even though it's a 60-40 issue with Americans. That is, 60% say, hit them hard. We'll get into that. And Marsha Blackburn on the way. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years now. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell them about him, Bob.
Yeah, it's really a thrill for me to have both the dentists, my daughter and Dr. Jared Geddes. One of the things that I love about them both is when they don't have a patient in their chair, they're in my room watching what I do and trying to learn from me. And we hear enough about the new generation, and they think they know everything and they don't want to work. And I've got two dentists who are really, really want to learn and really, really willing to learn to work hard. And I enjoy learning from them. They brought some new skills and some new technologies to our office that will be great benefits to our patients. And so, if anything, I think that having them both there is going to expand and lengthen my career as opposed to shorten my career.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Yes, I know it's the holidays. I know this is not a time of year most people think about losing weight. But our executive producer, Fast Eddie, is doing it. He's using PhD weight loss right now as a weight loss tool through the holiday season. It can be done. And you know how I know? In just 2 weeks' time, right now, as we speak, he's on the program, and the first 2 weeks of the program, he's already dropped 8 pounds. Now, I told you, and the reason he's doing it, because I told you I lost 40 pounds in under 4 months earlier this year. Eddie said, I want to try it. I said, it's almost the holidays. He said, I don't care. I want to try it. And he's lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks' time. He works with his counselor, same as I work with my counselor. I've kept the weight off. I'm going to probably go for another 20 in the new year. But the point is right now, I've hit idle on purpose. I'm maintaining my weight loss because my counselor at PhD Weight Loss has taught me exactly what I need to do to maintain. And then when I want to re-engage and kick it into full gear and start losing more in the new year, I can. The best part about PhD Weight Loss this time of year is they're very well aware this is a hard time to get people motivated to lose weight. But if you find yourself motivated like Fast Eddie is, they're going to give you a heck of a deal. Right now, they're making it even easier to get started because they're going to waive your consultation fee entirely. They're going to add 2 weeks to your program totally free, and they're going to cover all costs of food. This will be, now everybody's going to start trying to lose weight in January. Everybody will call, and you're not going to get a deal like this then. You start this program now, you're going to get a huge savings. And Dr. Ashley Lucas is going to throw in her brand new book, which is also a great read. She is maha as they get. She has put together a marvelous way to lose weight from the comfort of your own home, over the phone with a counselor one-on-one. It's private, it's great, it's easy. Eddie's losing weight fast. I've lost over 40 pounds and maintained it. Join us. Come on. All right, a couple of ways to do it. Call 864-644-1900, 864-644-1900, and when you do, mention you heard Stigall bragging about how well they work. Promo code 2026 START if you go online to myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com, promo code 2026 START, or 864-644-1900. Come on, get healthy, lose weight, even during the holidays with PhD Weight Loss. Hey, good morning. Welcome into the Tuesday edition of the Stigall Show, and Merry Christmas to you. Thrilled to have you here. Our telephone number is 855-STIGALL if you want to get in here today. You can always reach out, chrisstigall.com, for everything you need. We're on X, we're on Facebook. You know, I was just told by people that count this stuff. I don't have time. But I'm told by people inside the company that look at this stuff. Our Facebook, in particular, and I'm not entirely sure what it is or why, but I thank you for it. Facebook has been blowing up lately. You guys have been chatty over there on Facebook. I'm grateful. However you come. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, if you're on X, even TikTok. I've kind of limped in and tried that scene, even though I feel weird about handing over all of my intel to China. Yes, I'm even trying that. So if you want to get in touch with me on social media, I hope that you will. And I really appreciate the conversation if you ever have the time. Head over to chrisstigall.com and it's all there. As well as my 3 times a week newsletter, the Harumph Society, where yesterday I continued to talk about something that I brought up, I think, on this show last week. I forget sometimes whether I brought it up exclusively to Harumphers or whether I brought it up here or both. Revelation addiction. And it is something that is, if you're on social media, and again, I stipulate, if you're not or you don't spend a ton of time on social media, even Harumphers who I surveyed and I asked, are you following all of this personality-driven back and forth between podcasters and digital streamers whose names, you know, some people love it when you name names because they like the food fight. They're addicted to the food fight. They want the food fight. Revelation addiction. There is a cottage industry growing by leaps and bounds. It just is. Creating their own little podcast Netflix series. Tune in to the next episode and find out whether she is accusing her or him of this or that. Find out tomorrow if he is sitting with him for this interview, and then they can join force. And you know what it is? It's WWE. I mean, Fast Eddie, I said last week, this world that's being created out there in the podcast space, and it's smart. I'm actually not maligning it. It's very, very smart. They're creating fan fiction, drama. This is exactly what the WWE storyline is. It's just now in podcast and digital streaming form.
No, absolutely. Yes. You could see it. You can see it from downtown, too, especially in the headlines.
But some people take it very seriously.
Yes.
They live it, and they're getting emotional about it, and it leads to people like Tim Poole's home being shot at, Ed. And this is where it's starting to get very, very troubling, and why I've talked about this being an addiction that becomes a problem like most addictions do. Tim Poole is a big fish in the digital download space, in the streaming space, in the podcast space. He's been on this show a couple of times, I think. I don't know him. He's come out swinging at people like Candace Owens. And as such, last weekend or late last week, in the dark of night, somebody comes along and takes physical gunshots to his house. Give me number 32.
So where does that leave us? We have 2 weeks left in the year before we go on our Christmas hiatus. You know, I'm not a big fan of any kind of hiatus. I would prefer just to work. But it is taxing, it is grueling, of course. And there's a lot of infrastructure here that requires me to work all day, every day, Monday to Friday, with some extra work on the weekends, usually meetings. And I'm probably going to have a stroke. My health's actually pretty good. My blood pressure is great. My resting heart rate is actually around 45. I exercise quite a bit. Haven't been able to skate in the past month or two, the holidays and, But we have to have these conversations, and I have been, with the people, our contractors, people we work with.
Yeah, and so he went on to talk about why he may just hang it up. I mean, because his family's being shot at. I told you yesterday there's a new survey out there that says young people think words are violence. And as such, if you think that, what must you do? Well, you're going to have to take matters into your own hands, right? Stop the violence with violence. Tim Poole speaks for a living, that's all, just like me. But there are people that are now becoming so slavishly loyal to this Netflix drama, this fakery, this wrestling match that's playing out, this fictitious world that people like Candace Owens are building. So I want to just put the truth up front. There is a very new spiritual and psychological sickness gripping particularly American young men, and I've named it revelation addiction. And it's pulling them toward very destructive moments, fueled by the very same poisonous root, and that's envy. And if you were reading my Harumph Society letter last week, you know my Thanksgiving column, I wrote about my 19-year-old son, a thoughtful, skeptical, genuinely critical thinker who looked up at me during breakfast to make conversation and said very seriously, "So, Dad, what do you think about the Jews?" And not in hostility, not in confusion, but it's because every young man with a phone is being hit from all sides by conspiracy grifters and anti-Semitic tropes and bitterness and influencers, whatever that word means, who profit by keeping them angry all the time. So angry that apparently they'll pick up a gun and shoot it at a guy's house if he speaks out against it. I'm mindful of that. Revelation addiction. I've been watching this for years. It's the compulsive hunt for the next secret truth, the next expose, the next villain supposedly responsible for your problems. It isn't stupidity, folks. It's spiritually weaponized anger. It keeps young men scrolling for vindication, not wisdom. It rewards intensity over accuracy. It rewards outrage over understanding. And if it's left untreated, revelation addiction becomes the gateway drug to the two movements now competing for the souls of particularly young men in this country. Socialism on the left, the Zoran Mandami types, and then the grievance grifters who claim to be on the right, though I don't really know that they are necessarily, and you know their names, I'm not going to do it, but they become a booming cottage industry of rage peddlers without solutions. And by the way, there's some new evidence to suggest at least one of them is in fact being artificially propped up and shopped by foreign entities entirely online. But these two forces pretend to hate each other, but they're preaching the same sermon. Some of these people that are supposedly on the right and the Zoran Mandami types, they're really not at odds. They sell the same thing. You've been wronged. Someone stole what should have been yours, and you should be pissed about it, and we should all take up arms, maybe literally. And that's called envy. The Bible calls it covetousness. Psychology calls it resentment. Politics calls it a movement. Whatever you want to label it, it is destructive. It does nothing but destroy. The left weaponizes envy by moralizing mediocrity. Success, of course, is exploitation. Achievement is oppression. Inequality is injustice. They don't just pit the poor against the rich, they drag everyone toward the same resentful middle. The grievance grifters. They weaponize envy inward against our own allies, against Jewish people, against conservatives, against anyone who's had success or anyone that's had a modicum of respect. It's divisive. It doesn't build up. It doesn't offer solutions. I've told you that. Whereas free markets do the opposite. They take the natural desire to improve your life and redeem it. Work, build, create. None of that is going on with the grievance grifters. Socialism, of course, collapses because it feeds envy. The grifters corrode the right for the very same reason. Free enterprise survives because it redirects human longing toward ownership and responsibility and growth. And that's why this is the third, fourth, fifth time I'm addressing this. Because for the first time, socialism and fringe influencers, supposedly on our side, are feeding off the same spiritual poison in an attempt to fracture these young men who have recently voted Trump, by the way. Revelation addiction. It primes this group for socialism because both offer the same counterfeit comfort. You're a victim, someone else is to blame, and your salvation comes from exposing or punishing the villain. One offers the thrill of hidden knowledge. The other, of course, offers the thrill of state revenge, getting even. Neither requires any responsibility. Neither produces anything. And, of course, both hollow out a generation starving for purpose. I have more on this in a minute. Hang on. Just to close the loop on my thoughts here, Tim Poole, a podcaster who's pretty well liked and well known and built a hell of a following, his home was shot at over the weekend. And the only thing that Tim Poole's done differently is dare speak out about Candace Owens. And it struck me, again, how dangerous it is that there are people listening to that woman that are now driven to pick up a gun and shoot at Tim Poole's house because he says he thinks she's full of excrement. So this is no longer about the left anymore. This is about some who claim to be on what I thought was the right. I don't know what you call Candace anymore. I don't know if you can call her a conservative. I think she feeds revelation addiction. It primes young men, and she's not alone, by the way. It is an industry now. It primes young men for socialism. Just the same as leftists who outright own it and say that's what they believe in, command and control economies, because both offer that very same lie. You're a victim and someone else is to blame. And the only thing we can do about it is punish the villain who made you the victim. Again, it doesn't build anyone up. It doesn't create anything. It just offers the thrill or the hit of being in on the inside, and here's the real truth, and here's what they're not telling you. It also offers the thrill of getting revenge on people, but it doesn't require any kind of responsibility whatsoever and produces absolutely nothing. And I understand its appeal, particularly to young men, because you've got a generation starving for purpose. They've been hollowed out in many ways, and I get it. Look at what these young men in particular are carrying around with them. Inflation, student debt, no path to home ownership. They've been humiliated culturally. They were lied to and their childhoods robbed during COVID. Institutions too numerous to count have failed them and betrayed them. And they're yearning for a desperate sense of meaning and purpose, which many of them are getting to church, and amen for that. But this anger, if it doesn't have an outlet, this revelation addiction, as I call it, it supplies an outlet. The next conspiracy, or the next villain, or the next target, like Tim Poole. And the grifters line up to feed the algorithm. So I return to the theme of envy, not as an economic point, but as a spiritual diagnosis here. Socialism weaponizes envy, and the grifters monetize envy. Free markets redirect envy into creating something, building something, making something. The Stigall plan, if I may, rather brilliant. Look it up. I've written about it. Not because it's policy, though it is, but because it's the opposite spirit of socialism and the grifter economy. It says to young Americans, you don't need to burn anything down. You don't need to resent successful people. You don't need conspiracies to feel alive. You can build. You can own. You can prosper. It turns envy into partnership and resentment into opportunity and ownership. It offers something addiction, revelation addiction never will, a real future. More in a minute. It's the perfect stocking stuffer. Stuff it right in your stocking, if it fits. It's Colonel Kurt Schlichter and his brand new book. He's back with Panama Red. It's the latest installment of his Kelly Turnbull series, and he's with me. Merry Christmas, Colonel. Ahoy. Congratulations on yet another huge success. It drops today.
Well, thank you. It's selling like yayo at Hunter Biden's birthday party.
I have to say,
yayo. I could have gone with blow. I could have gone with Bolivian marching powder. I went yayo. That's me. Oh, see, you can go. Everybody else goes here, but I go all the way over there.
You speak the lingo of those Venezuelan drug boat guys. Good job.
Ahoy!
Yeah. Which I do want to get into that in a minute. But first of all, 9 of these now. You write books like most other guys do laundry. Like you can crank out a good book quick.
Men don't do laundry. What are you, a char woman? A scullery maid? Laundry?
Well, I guess I was hoping so. Maybe, all right, shower or shave, brush teeth.
Toss it in the hamper,
to go with there?
My
point is, you do it fast. You write a book fast. You write the damn books fast. You've written 9 of the damn books, Kurt. That's my point.
I go faster than a Bulwark wedding night.
Why should people go right?
But I actually, at the end, you're actually satisfied with my climax.
So here's the thing: if people have read the other books, we have the worst delay. This is like you're on the moon and I'm on Neptune, and we're trying to communicate like it's 1960. I'm not entirely sure why. You can't hear me, I can't hear you. This will be a long conversation.
You should have gone with Uranus.
Yeah, I should. So tell the people why they should order your 9th installment, Colonel.
Because it's about as much fun as our discussion here. I mean, for the listener. Look, Andrew Breitbart was the guy who dragged me into this thing, right? I thought I was out, but he kept pulling me back in. And he said, we got to make our own culture. So let's make our own culture, right? I decided, I was reading books by short, never Trump writers. And I was like, these spy novels are boring. It's the same thing all the time. And I find them tiresome. And I would throw them across my house. And then I said, well, why don't I write one that I'd like to read? And I ended up writing People's Republic, which is right behind me. That's the first of the 9, introducing Kelly Turnbull. And he likes to shoot people, and he likes to encounter situations that are either intriguing, interesting, or hilarious. And so there's a lot of laughs. There's occasional cameos from my pals. I think you've shown up in a couple. Yes. I don't think you show up in Panama Red, but Larry O'Connor does in a very interesting way. My pal Dennis Miller, remember the time we had our little chat with Dennis Miller?
I do.
That was
he called me fat. Yeah.
He called you hefty. But you
I'd like a redo on that interview, by the way. I've lost a substantial amount of weight since we had that conversation. I'd like to have him back so he can take a look at me now. Thank you.
You look like a lawyer now. You look like you ought to be on a billboard.
Dennis Miller is one of my favorite.
Big money if a truck hits me.
Dennis Miller is one of my favorite people ever, and I don't even know, it was during COVID, I'm not sure, but it's Larry O'Connor, and it's Colonel Kurt Schlichter and me, and we're all on a Zoom, and Dennis Miller joins us. I'm not entirely sure how that came to pass, but the four of us are on a Zoom, and he loves Kurt. He's seen Kurt's work. He's read Kurt's work. He's all enthralled with Kurt. He's clearly there for Kurt, maybe Larry. And then me, who's probably the biggest fan of his since I've been a child. Nothing excites me more than to talk to him. And he finally acknowledges me by saying, "Wow, aren't you fat?" That was the sum total of that conversation. I'm not entirely sure why, but I was there and along for the ride. It was fantastic.
I don't think it was quite that harsh, but it was. He does appear in this book as the host of the Dennis Miller Mysteries.
Oh, that's good. What is he doing? Not to make this about Dennis Miller, but I was literally thinking, what is he doing? Have you spoken with him lately? Where is he?
Every once in a while we send I'm going to send him an email. I've got to tell him about his little hit. At one point, he's the Dennis Miller hit Mysteries, and Kelly Turnbull, the hero, is watching. And Dennis Miller says to his chief, played by Bernie Casey III, of course, "Hey, you've given me a case where my roster of subjects is shorter than the track list on Greatest Hits of Starland Vocal Band."
That's Dana Carvey doing Dennis Miller is one of my favorite impressions ever. Colonel Kurt Schlichter is with us. He has written a brand new book called Panama Red. It is out today. It just dropped. It's the 9th installment in his Kelly Turnbull series. All right, Colonel, the double tap on the drug boat. You stand where?
I'm for it. I'm going to, call me crazy. I'm going to take sides against the people bringing poison into our country. And I was having a thought, you knew I was a lawyer for 30 years. And I was a colonel for 27. So I don't know. I may have a glancing familiarity with this stuff. And I came up with a thought exercise for all the people going, you're not allowed to blow up people bringing poison into your country. And I thought, well, that's an interesting thought. Where would you stand on blowing up a boat full of mustard gas? It's also known as HD. I was a chemical warfare officer. I'll give you a spoiler. Mustard gas, very bad. Okay? You don't want anything to do with it. All right? It's no thank you. It's like you or me on a conservative cruise. You don't want that. So could you blow that boat up? And I'm hoping our Democrat friends would say, why, no, you need to convene a court of law to analyze the legalities of the Geneva Conventions and the law of armed conflict, which I am now an expert on, having been an expert on COVID or epidemiology during COVID and tariffs during economics during the tariff thing. I am now an expert on the law of war, and I would declare, no, you can't. Please take that position. Please. But, the difference between mustard gas and the poisons that the drug dealers are bringing in is that mustard gas has killed exactly 0 Americans in the last year. And fentanyl and cocaine, yes, cocaine has killed people. I've killed nearly 100,000. So if we're doing, if you want to analyze it, if you want to rationally discuss the situation, bombs away. If you're a sissy femboy who'd rather Americans die than drug dealers die, well, I'm sure you voted for Kamala Harris.
So just so I'm clear, because I'm with you 100%. I don't feel even a little bit sorry for drug runners at sea. But
funny.
just as a literal military matter, those in charge have already said Pete Hegseth 100% didn't tell us any such thing. So whatever that means, then it's on what? Immediate leadership, whether it's a problem or whether it's not. They're saying Hegseth didn't give any such order. So what's that mean?
Well, the the commander is responsible for anything he does or doesn't do. It doesn't matter if he has a JAG there or not. He is responsible. He didn't do it. The commander did not do anything wrong. The commander ought to get a medal, a high five, and if he's single, 2 Braniff stewardesses to hang in a hot tub with him.
Well, now that's my next question. Here's my next question. So he's the commander, and he decides to take those 2 guys bobbing around that we didn't hit, take them out as well. In your view, or literally in terms of military code of conduct, there's nothing wrong with that, as you read it or understand it.
Oh, I couldn't care less. I hear people citing the Geneva Conventions. Geneva Conventions there are conventions. It's not the Geneva Convention. So my question is, well, which one are you talking about? Which one? They go, and then I ask, well, why do you think it's applicable? What's the nation state that these guys belong to as uniformed combatants, as opposed to illegal combatants who get almost no rights? That purports to bind us. At which point they kind of look around, their eyes shift, and then they call me a transphobe. You are allowed to kill the enemy. Now, typically, if you're bobbing in the water on flotsam and jetsam, typically we don't. There are plenty of good reasons to do it. But here, the problem that they have are the facts. And the facts are that, well, they blew up the boat didn't sink, boat's still there, they got back on the boat. Okay, there's no one-shot rule. You're allowed to destroy the boat, and you're allowed to kill the enemy who's on it. And because the guys have been wounded, doesn't matter. Look, when I was at Fort Benning, right, at the infantry, so I was trained when you assault an ambush, you have a kill zone, you launch the ambush in a kill zone, a bunch of people go down, and then you run through and you shoot everybody in the kill zone. Why do you do that? Because you don't want them to pop up and shoot you from behind if they're only wounded. War is a mean thing. It involves hurting people. This is why we shouldn't do it lightly. You should have a good reason for going to war, like yesterday when the anniversary of the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor, or scumbag cartel guys shipping in poison that kills nearly 100,000 Americans a year. You should have a good reason to do it because it's ugly. I have no desire to hurt anybody. I have no desire to kill anybody. I managed to never kill anybody when I was in the Army, and I'm pretty happy about that. It worked out well for me. But at the end of the day, you're either going to defend your country or you're going to be a sissy femboy watching the pool boy scam on your wife before you go back to scribbling for the Dispatch.
The latest book, Panama Red, perfect for that Christmas gift for that tough-to-shop-for patriot in your life. Panama Red, the brand new book by Colonel Kurt Schlichter. Colonel, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. You'll always be the captain of my drug boat. A little earlier in the show, I was talking about, and I've been writing about, at the Harumph Society, revelation addiction, and that young men are desperately looking for a future out there. And there is a sector of, I'll just say, what we do for a living, what we do here, this show that we put on. There are people out there putting on shows like this who have no responsibility to anybody. They're not transparent necessarily about who funds their efforts, but what they peddle is a lot of divisiveness and a lot of rage. And quite frankly, it's led to some people's homes now being shot at because they dare speak out about it, as I have. I'm mindful as I listen to a guy like Tim Poole talk about his home being shot at because he dared say something negative about Candace Owens. It's like her minions are now picking up guns and shooting them at houses? Is that where we want to be as supposed conservatives, assuming that's what she still calls herself? I don't know. Young men in this country face a real future, in particular. Young people, but young men in particular. Hopefully many of them are turning to faith, leaning into the turning point Charlie Kirk way. But it's very, very clear that there are two versions of a future emerging. Two distinctly different visions. Envy and grievance and division, or creation and responsibility and hope. Envy, grievance and division, or creation, responsibility, and hope. Those are the two visions that have emerged in this current era. I think President Trump is selling the latter out there on the campaign trail. I know what my choice is. I choose building and I choose unity, and I choose prosperity rooted in faith, not in suspicion. Envy destroys nations. It destroys cultures. Opportunity builds them up. And so all I would say is it's time we help young men put down the phones and streaming these podcasts of these grifters trying to divide and tear down, or socialists who are trying to poison them with their ideology, or both. Let's build. Let's build something. President Trump, guys like Scott Bessent, they're hitting the campaign trail starting today in Pennsylvania to sell a future of optimism and hope and building and investment. Solutions, not just rage and anger for the sake of being angry. Anyway, 855 Stigall's the telephone number. Can I say thank you? From the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you did just yesterday. This audience is amazing. You nearly doubled the number of kids that we were able to help yesterday, thanks to your generosity. We are trying to get, through this Angel Tree campaign, 2,600 kids a Christmas gift in their hands from their incarcerated parent. That comes from you. And I know a lot of you may say, I don't, if you screwed up and you wind up in prison, that's not my problem. You're right. It's not. Neither are these people asking for your empathy or sympathy for prisoners. It's their children. And anybody who has missed a parent at Christmas time knows how painful that is. And if they're in prison and the child knows it, even worse still, they think, does my parent even know or think about me? I've talked to people who've screwed up, drugs or whatever, and they've wound up in prison. They still have a family, they still care about their kids, and they don't want their kid to think they're forgotten. Can you help get a gift in their hand today and a handwritten note from their parent, and most of all, a Bible? You can do that for $30 today. Can you help me? 888-206-2794. 888-206-2794. Hey, good to be with you, folks. Welcome into this Tuesday edition of the Stigall Show. We're going to be heading to Tennessee, maybe to talk to the next governor. I think it's probably pretty likely that Marsha Blackburn, once she leaves her Senate post, she'll become the next governor of Tennessee. We always like to talk with her. She'll be with us. There's some interesting stuff cooking in the Senate. And we'll talk with her about that. The latest on these Somali scammers. President Trump hits the campaign trail to talk affordability. He's actually swinging through Pennsylvania. So we'll talk with him about that. One of the good news stories, the real-time good news stories about the economy, despite whatever you're hearing, is energy prices are falling precipitously. And one of the guys behind getting energy development foot on the gas pedal, front and center in the Trump administration, is Lee Zeldin. He's the EPA Administrator, and he will be with us this morning, coming up in this hour. Sit tight. You heard me earlier this year, I hope, talking about our partnership with Prison Fellowship, the non-for-profit Christian organization that helps kids who have incarcerated parents enjoy a little fresh air and fun out in the open outdoors during summer camp. Well, they do great work at Christmas time, too, and we're proud to partner with them again in what they call their Angel Tree Christmas campaign. You know, there are thousands of kids all over the country, through no fault of their own, who see one or maybe even both of their parents incarcerated this time of year, and what a tough thing that is. You know, a child should be enjoying the Christmas season, and with something that heavy in their home, it's often difficult to do. What I love about Prison Fellowship is, and what is so cool about what Angel Tree does, they take a $30 donation that you give, and they can turn that into a gift for a young person who may be struggling this Christmas. And best of all, it's not just a gift, it's a handwritten note from their parent who happens to be incarcerated, and most importantly, the gospel message. They hear the truth of Jesus this time of year. That's a $30 gift from you to a child who could really use some joy this Christmas. So I hope you'll join me, and there are a couple of ways to do it. If this is something that's important to you or interesting to you, or you think, I've been blessed, I'd like to be a blessing. $30 gets it done for one child. $150, you've impacted 5 kids and their Christmas with a handwritten note from their parents, as well as the gospel message of Jesus. It's one of the most important things we do all year, as far as I'm concerned, here on the show. And you can get involved by going to chrisstigall.com and click on the banner at the top of my page, chrisstigall.com. Click on the banner and give whatever you feel you can. Or you can call today at 888-206-2794. That's 888-206-2794. $27.94 and give what you can to the Angel Tree Christmas campaign with our friends at Prison Fellowship. MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you're not going to find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88, any color, any style, and any size, even the king size. Regularly priced at $119.98, now only $29.88. Once they're gone, though, they're gone for good. My towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regularly priced at $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time, and the only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens starting at $17.98, kings at $19.98. And for a limited time, when you order over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. 800-932-5056, promo code Chris, or use that promo code at mypillow.com, promo code Chris. How do you do? Good morning, Nashville, Tennessee. A community that, I guess it shouldn't surprise us in that special election. Tilted blue for that lunatic. But that was it in that district. Otherwise, things went well for the Republicans in the special election last week. This lady, well, she's been a guest of the show a number of times. She represents the entirety of Tennessee. She'd like to be the next governor of Tennessee, and I think she will be. United States Senator Marsha Blackburn back with us. Senator, it's great to see you, and Merry Christmas. Good morning.
And a Merry Christmas to you, and good morning also.
Could I just pick your brain for a moment? I think it's kind of obvious. We all understand that major metropolitan cities are blue. That just is what it is. I think it's a reality no matter what red state or blue state you're in. The concentrated populations are blue. Nashville is blue, isn't it? That's just a fact.
What we know is that Matt Van Epps had a good solid win, a 9-point win. We also know that special elections in off years can get kind of funky on you. And the Democrats were so motivated after their big blue city wins in New York, New Jersey, and the Virginia governor's race. But voters came home to Tennessee values, and they know that addressing the cost of living the way the Democrats want to do means hiking your taxes. They also know that policies the Democrats want to put in place mean less freedom for individuals. And Matt Van Epps is going to be a great U.S. congressman, and he will be reelected in 2026 to that post.
Senator, there is something really interesting yesterday happening in the Senate. I know you were part of the committee who led this conversation on the American Music Fairness Act, and Gene Simmons of KISS fame was one of those testifying. This is people may not be paying attention to this, and I know in terms of kind of the scope and scale of all the different things the country's facing, this may not be one that people know a lot about. But the American Music Fairness Act, and full disclosure, right? So I'm in the broadcast business. So full disclosure, as a commercial entity, radio as an industry, as I understand, is sort of on the other side of where the artists are on this. Is that right? I'm not in the music industry spinning music anymore. I used to be, but maybe you can explain it for us.
Yes, absolutely. What we know is that pay for performance is not there for our musicians when you come to radio play. That's why it's called the AM/FM Act. And every country pays royalties for radio play except the U.S., China, and North Korea. And what we need to do is to come into compliance with paying for radio play. Then our entertainers and our creators can be paid for the music that plays over the radio every day. And Gene Simmons from KISS is going to be one of our witnesses today on my bill. We are delighted to have him, and he is such an advocate for this. You think about some of our great singers. Think about people like Sam Moore of Sam and Dave, who sang Soul Man. Every radio station out there plays that music. But while he was alive, Sam Moore never made one single penny from his voice and his singing of Soul Man being used on those radio stations over and over again. So this is an issue of fairness. It's also an issue of meeting the constitutional right that our creators have. It's an Article 1, Section 8 right to benefit from their creations and innovations.
I'll let the lobbyists from my industry tackle this, but I would say, as you know, one of the discussions about radio, broadcast, traditional radio, and I should think that the people on the other side of this argument would probably join the radio folks in the concern that automakers are talking about no radio in cars at all. And that's a problem for not just my industry, but also musicians too, right? I mean, so it's like you got to be able to keep radio in cars if they want to be paid to be heard on the radio.
Well, that would be true, but also, Chris, when it comes to having AM, FM radio in cars, it is a public safety issue. How do you get alerts over adverse occurrences or over tornadoes that are coming through? So you have that override from the federal government on those AM bands. And in times of a natural disaster or a national emergency, they can communicate with the public. So I am very supportive of keeping radio in automobiles so that people can get the information to keep themselves safe.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I got to ask you, do you think that your Democrat colleagues think they have an issue here? Because I've seen the polling on it, and they don't. It's a 60-40 issue on this drug boat stuff. They keep hammering this like they think they're onto a big scandal. And the public is with the president on dealing with people trafficking narcotics, Senator. Why do your Democrat colleagues continue to hammer this like they think they got a thing, an issue?
Yeah, you know, Chris, it is so interesting. They keep looking for some issue that is going to stick. So basically, they're throwing everything against the wall and trying to figure out what is going to stick. And they thought that going after the drug boats would be something that would stick. But what they have found out is the American people are saying, if you know that boat is bringing drugs to the United States and it is going to end up in our communities, hurting our citizens, then take them out before they get here. And it is a 73% favorable issue to go ahead and take these boats out. And what we have heard from the Department of War is every time they take one of these boats out, you're saving 25,000 American lives.
And it's clear to the American people what's happening here. What's a little less clear,
Yes.
Senator Blackburn, Marsha Blackburn with us again from Tennessee, the United States Senator, soon to be governor of Tennessee. What is clear is affordability is still something that's on the minds of Americans. President Trump hears it, and he's hitting the trail, I guess, so to speak, again. He's going to Pennsylvania. So there's a shift here. I think the president and Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, they both addressed it over the weekend and again yesterday. What's the messaging here from you, and what would you counsel the president to say to voters right now?
Cost of living is an issue, and while inflation is coming down, bear in mind the Democrats created this problem. Inflation was at 9.1% under Joe Biden. It was the highest, fastest inflation rates we had seen in over 4 decades, and it is coming down around 3%. President Trump is making a lot of progress. The cost of gas is coming down in Tennessee. I've seen it under $2.50 a gallon. I know in some parts of the country, it is hitting right around $2 a gallon. But people want the cost of living to come down and to be more reasonable more quickly. And President Trump is right to put the focus on this, to say, I hear you. I know it is still a problem. We are doing these specific steps, the big beautiful bill is going to kick in come January 1. That is the single largest tax cut for working Americans ever. No tax on tips, overtime, and removing my bill that removed the tax on Social Security for about 85% of our nation's seniors. So these provisions are all going into effect. We also know that dealing with the issue on tariffs, getting the cost of gas and groceries down, the price of eggs and milk and ground beef, those are essential components. And I appreciate that the president is working to make that happen, and we want to see this kick in. Everybody is saying it's past time for these provisions to kick in.
Senator, I've got about 30 seconds. I would be remiss if I didn't get your reaction to the announcement that Jasmine Crockett is going to make a run for the Senate down there against your colleague. There'll be a primary, but Senator Jasmine Crockett from Texas, could you imagine it? Senator Blackburn from Tennessee?
No, I don't see her winning that race in Texas. And anybody can throw their hat in the ring and run, and she has chosen to do that.
And we'll leave it at that. Hey, Senator, you know who I have on the show tomorrow? Ricky Skaggs. I bet you can appreciate that.
Oh,
Mr.
how
Country
wonderful.
Music Hall of Fame.
What a great guy.
Yeah. Hey, Merry Christmas to you.
And a merry one to you. Be blessed.
That is Senator Marsha Blackburn. I was just thinking about Nashville during that conversation. Ricky Skaggs on the show tomorrow. I'm kind of geeked out about that. Growing up as a kid, hee-haw on at the house. He's touring, doing a Christmas show. That's tomorrow on our program. Hang on, more in a minute. Let me go to Terry in Ohio. If Terry's... No? All gone? Anybody with us there, Ed? Anybody? No? All gone? Okay, we had some great calls earlier, and I'm sorry. We ran a little long there with Senator Blackburn. So those of you who were hanging, my apologies, but I know there were a couple of people that wanted to talk affordability on the show, and I was just interested to hear their conversation. So I'm sorry about that. We'll do some more calls a little later this week, and then, of course, Open Line Friday is just around the corner. So those of you that didn't get in or couldn't hang around, apologize for that. I also want to say to you, while we're at a point where I can just say thanks, I mentioned the sponsors. They're part of the three-legged stool here on this show. It does not work. This show cannot work unless you're supporting it and you're listening to it. And before we run out of time and before the year is over and we head into the holidays, I can't thank this audience enough from the very beginning for being as supportive of this brand new show as you've been. New shows are weird, because they replace shows that you enjoyed, and sometimes it's under great circumstances, as was the case for us. Sometimes it's under duress, and audiences feel, I think, a little betrayed when the announcements aren't clear as to what's happened. I was thankful and grateful that in the network's case, Hugh Hewitt moved to afternoons. I then took the network morning program and our team, and you've just been so kind to us. As the new guy, one of the things that I've been tasked with doing is helping raise awareness and raise funds for this wonderful ministry called Prison Fellowship and their Angel Tree campaign. This is strictly because of your donations that this happens. And we're talking about a gift in the hands of a child whose parent, for whatever reason, certainly through no fault of their own, is behind bars this Christmas. And I know that sort of lands on people's ears in an odd way. Well, I don't know. Giving money to a charity, somebody that's in prison, it's not about the prisoner. It's not about excusing the prisoner. It's about making sure that a child has a Christmas and knows they're loved and knows they're cared for. And Prison Fellowship does something really specific. They make sure the parent that's incarcerated includes a handwritten note in the gift that you have supplied to let that child know they're being thought of and they're being cared for. And most especially important in this entire campaign, they include a Bible with that gift. So you're talking about a handwritten note from a parent, a gift, and a Bible. That's going to change the direction of some of these kids, thousands of these kids, we hope, Christmas this year. Can you help me? We doubled the number of kids yesterday thanks to your generous support. we set a number. It was a lofty goal this year. I'm not going to lie. 2,600 kids. $30 is what it takes. And the math, what we have, we're talking about now 16 days before Christmas. We're talking about 11 more broadcast days for this show. Can you help me? Can you help Prison Fellowship? I'm basically asking you personally, friend to friend here. This would be a tremendous thing that you're doing for some very, very deserving kids who, again, through no fault of their own, find themselves without a parent this Christmas. Angel Tree is going to make it happen. $30 is all it takes. Now, you and I both know you couldn't go out to lunch for $30. You buy 2 pizzas, you couldn't get 2 pizzas for $30, but you can change the direction of a child's life for $30 today. Would you help out if you can? I'd be so grateful to you. At 888-206-2794. 888-206-2794. Please don't wait on this thing. They get it out the door, and they're great with it as soon as they receive your gift. Or click on the Angel Tree banner at chrisstigall.com. Thank you. Hey, welcome in, and Merry Christmas to you. Our telephone number is 855-STIGALL, if you'd like to get in here. Big news yesterday, this headline from GasBuddy.com. I talked to you about it earlier. Average U.S. gas prices see weekly dip again. A fresh multi-year low reached. We heard from a caller earlier in Colorado who's a truck driver. He said what he's paying for diesel right now, he can't remember when it has gotten down this low. He said in Colorado he just paid $2 a gallon for diesel. Pretty amazing. A guy that's had a lot to do with being helpful here, because we know the rules and regs in previous administrations were real, inflating energy costs ever higher. Lee Zeldin is the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency under the Trump administration and makes time for us again this morning. Administrator Zeldin, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. It's great to be back.
This is good news, and it is tied to everything. President Trump said it yesterday. Energy's first. I mean, it's got to be, because everything is tied to it, yes?
Absolutely. And unleashing energy dominance here in the United States, where we are reducing our reliance on foreign countries, it's key. Bringing down costs, the jobs that are created, the investments that are being made, the groundbreakings that have already started. There's so many different positive benefits to this effort all year. It started at the beginning of the year when the president, right out of the gate, on top of many executive orders related to energy, he created the National Energy Dominance Council. And what was happening in the past was that on the energy front, all these different agencies with equities and jurisdiction in this space were siloed off. They weren't working together closely the way that we see this year. And Doug Burgum, the Secretary of Interior, became chair. Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy. I'm on that, and Chris, and you have Lutnick on it, and the meetings that take place where we're with the president in the Oval at the Resolute desk going, pipeline project to pipeline project, power plant to power plant, rule after rule, collaborating like that. It's been key all year, and all credit there goes to the president for not just bringing us together, making it very clear out of the gate what he wanted to accomplish, and being way on top of it and working hard every single day, barely sleeping to make sure that these efforts get over the finish line.
Again, environment is different than climate. We all know that. Dirty air, dirty water, taking care of the environment, being good stewards of the environment. That's what the Environmental Protection Agency is about. It is not about climate change. That's different. I have 3 different stories, Administrator Zeldin, in front of me that I've just kept for just such a conversation. New York Times admits climate skeptics are winning the information war, have succeeded in undermining climate action, one headline. Science journal Nature retracts catastrophic climate change study. From Just the News, climate advocacy struggles. Opponents warn it's just re-strategizing. But the point is, this whole idea that we're warming the planet and thus we've got to choke ourselves of energy, thankfully, does not seem to be winning the day.
2 really important points come to mind. One is, science isn't perfect, but sometimes people who defend science, they get behind one particular theory and they go all in on it, and they don't acknowledge the ranges, the assumptions. I mean, there's a lot of guessing that goes on. And specifically as it relates to climate change, climate science, all the studies and research that's come out, I mean, there have been through the years pessimistic assessments of where things might be in 50 years, and there's optimistic assessments. And what has happened too much is that the most pessimistic view of the most pessimistic study is the one that people will rally behind, and then if you don't agree with them, that's just the way it is, then they try to name and shame you. You're a science denier. You don't believe in science. And I think that's one point that really ended up undermining credibility, because what happens when you actually get 25 years down the road, your bad assumptions end up getting proven to be inaccurate, and then you got a lot of money on your face. The second piece is, as you just pointed out, on the policy front, in the name of climate change, the willingness to bankrupt people who can least afford it, to try to get rid of all different sources of baseload power, to cause strains on the electricity grid, to move towards rolling blackouts, brownouts, make energy costs end up skyrocketing because of your policies, to put regulations in place trying to eliminate entire sectors of our energy economy, all in the name of climate change. That ends up getting a whole lot of blowback faster, saying, wait, hold on a second. I never said that I wanted you to force me to choose whether or not to heat my home or get the prescription drugs that I need or to put my, food in my refrigerator. I would like all three. And I would say from the policy to the way that the left has rallied behind the most pessimistic views that didn't borne out. Here we are in 2025, rolling into 2026, and it's a different day of this debate.
A federal judge, Administrator Zeldin, Lee Zeldin with us from the Environmental Protection Agency in the Trump administration. A federal judge, Axios writes, just yesterday, striking down President Trump's anti-wind directive, nullifying a January memo that they report stymies new federal permitting and leasing for wind projects. Full disclosure, I hate windmills. I think they're ugly. I have no idea who thought it was a good idea to dot our oceans and our landscapes, our pristine waters and lands with the stupid, ugly things. I know President Trump shares my point of view on this, but I don't know where you are with them. But does a federal judge have a place in this decision that President Trump handed down?
All year long, we have seen these district court judges, activist judges, trying to use the power of their office with the way they're interpreting it to try to tie the president's hand behind his back, the administration's hands behind their back, as far as being able to get policies over the finish line. And time after time, as these cases have worked through the court system and made their way up to the United States Supreme Court, we're seeing the Trump administration win case after case after case. And what happens is there's a lot of venue shopping, judge shopping. They want to get in front of the right judge. We've seen it with litigation targeting the EPA this year, where a district court judge that was targeted would end up putting out some type of an injunction against us, but then it works through the appeals process, and then we ended up winning the appeals case, like we saw in the $20 billion cancellation that I did earlier this year of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. As it relates to wind, the president's been very outspoken on this, especially with regards to the offshore wind projects. He talks about the economics of it and comparing the different sources of energy and the cost of it. What happens a lot on the left is that when they try to sell the economics of wind, they really don't, this is deliberately, obviously, they really don't capture all of the costs that go into it. Wind, obviously, is an intermittent source. It's not baseload power. It is not reliable. And once you produce the energy through it, then you have to store it and that creates transmission and storage.
And
those costs
and
need to
Mr.
be factored
Zeldin,
in as well.
just from I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just here again, like people that say no more mining, don't mine, don't drill for oil, yet we'll plant acres and acres of these giant, monolithic, ugly, unbelievably ugly, garish. They'll dot the landscape for miles with these stupid things. The same crew that says don't mine and don't drill for oil, right?
Yeah, well, what we're seeing, I mean, you add solar into it, and you have a lot of beautiful, pristine farmland that has turned into these massive solar farms, and and there are points to be made on wind and points to be made on solar. I mean, can't tell you how often I've driven across this country where you see a windmill it's not just in a position where it's not moving because there's no wind at that moment, but there's a lot of issues when you just get to the end of life and you just have this big thing sitting there. And I love this scene of Landman in season 1 where they're talking about all the fossil fuel that's used to produce and transport this energy. And lastly, on the solar piece, there are massive federal loans that have gone out. I mean, we're talking about into the billions. There's one called Ivanhoe out in California where they got this over $1 billion loan from the federal government, and very quickly they're completely out of business. And now you have all of these. You have a massive solar farm, all these solar panels just sitting out what used to be pristine land. The taxpayers lost their money. And all this is just just sitting out there for who knows how long.
Lee Zeldin, I'll let you run on this question because I know you have to go. The fraud that's been uncovered in the EPA, I don't want to say it's the most, but it seems like when we were talking about DOGE, and I know DOGE has not gone away, it's just kind of been folded into the operations of the executive, but you immediately struck. I mean, you hit the ground running, and it seems like EPA is uniquely an agency that was just sloshing around in a lot of taxpayer money. Is that about right, that the EPA seemed to be where most of the grift was going on with the left? And do you feel pretty confident you've put that to bed?
It was certainly in a very large part at EPA. It absolutely was across agencies. What was unique was the amount of the money being wasted beyond the operational dollars that go through the agency. You have an agency with an annual operating budget of about $10 billion. We've saved so far this year $30 billion. We've canceled grants worth about $29 billion of that 30. And a lot of former Obama and Biden officials, Democratic donors, create these environmental NGOs. They get money as pass-throughs, even though they're not qualified. And despite the conflicts of interest, because of the self-dealing and reduced agency oversight, it was all set up to fail for the taxpayer. It was all set up to be able to enrich their friends. And I'll just give you one quick example. There's this program called Solar for All, which was created as part of the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. And they had there are all sorts of examples where there are many pass-throughs the dollar would go through. They would go through, in some cases, 4 pass-through entities where that dollar would be getting dropped by 15 to 25% per cut.
A shell game. Lee Zeldin, you're a warrior. We're so glad you're there. We're grateful you make time for us. I hope you have a great rest of the year. If we don't talk to you before then, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in the new year. There is this case right now before the Supreme Court. They're going to hear oral arguments in a case called Trump v. Slaughter, a battle that's been brewing on one hand since soon after President Trump took office in January, and on the other hand for years. At the center of the battle are laws that limit the president's ability to fire the heads of independent, multi-member federal agencies like the Federal Trade Commission. Now, in a million years, if you have a president that can't fire people in the executive branch, what have you then? What's the point of having an executive branch if the executive can't fire people that work under him? Justice Gorsuch tackled some of this. Listen to number 37 here. 37 or 8, either one. What do you like? About
so even some quintessentially executive functions, in your view, are not vested in the President of the United States?
Yeah, I would not say that. I would not put it in this. I would not say that they're. Yes, I would say they're not.
You have to say yes to that based on what you've just given.
They're not constitutionally committed to the person of the president and to his sole and exclusive discretion.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that it's even a debate. Gorsuch clearly doesn't think it's a debate. This is like we were just talking about with Administrator Zeldin. This should be slam dunk, 6-3, maybe 7-2 in favor of the executive. If you have a president that can't fire people in the executive branch, then what have you? It's a stupid discussion. I can't even believe it's a debate. Let's go to Joseph in New York, waiting patiently. Joseph, glad you called. Good morning.
Hello, Chris.
How are you, Joseph? Good morning. Welcome in.
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me again. This is the rabbi from the prison who called a little while ago, and we saw a beautiful, I would say almost a Christmas miracle here in the prison, where both Prison Fellowship, which they also, in addition to Angel Tree, they have the Prison Fellowship Academy, where they teach the inmates biblical principles to help them improve their lives. One of the inmates was actually from Communist China. He became a very committed Christian here in the prison and also started to learn many Jewish traditions as well. He came to the Prison Fellowship Academy with a letter from the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, crying, saying, after reading the testimonies of the help that they do, he said, instead of spending $25 that I could buy something special for Christmas to have some cookies or something, Isaiah says in Isaiah 58, and he read from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, some books that he read, he said, when you fast, you also have to give charity. Instead of spending that money on myself, I want to spend that money to give to charity. And the pastor who was teaching the prison fellowship, she said she was inspired by that. The guard who was standing there said he's also going to give, and some of the inmates said the same thing. So this is what you're helping when you help the prison fellowship. It's not only Angel Tree, which helps their children, but the inmates inside, their lives are transformed, and they are free inside by the power of their faith. So I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and thank you for all the work you do for Prison Fellowship and the IFCJ and all the other programs that you help out.
Rabbi, God bless you for saying so. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's why my parent company, Salem Media, has partnered with these folks, what you just said so beautifully. And you can look up, and I want you to. I respect this audience entirely too much for you to not understand this. Open the books on this ministry and this charity, and you will see they spend their dollars well and wisely, and they're highly reputable. They do the work the rabbi just said, and I'm so glad he made that point. 1.5 million American kids have a mom or a dad in prison this Christmas. You can get a gift in their hand. You can get a note from that parent in their hand, and most importantly, you can get the Bible in their hand. Can you help me do that? 888-206-2794 or chrisstigall.com, and we'll see you tomorrow. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.